Season 3, Episode 2.
When I remember when I did The Shed, I remember I got approached by genuine restaurant companies who wanted me to help them launch businesses in that way. So basically create the idea of a restaurant, and then basically manipulate its position and then open it.
I'm Per.
And I'm James.
And this is UX Podcast, balancing business, technology, people, and society since 2011. And with listeners, new and old, all over the world, from Denmark to Nepal.
Today, we bring you a chat we recorded with the brilliant Oobah Butler. It was at From Business Buttons here in Stockholm that we had the opportunity to sit down and have a natter with Oobah.
He's a journalist, filmmaker, and prankster, known for toying with institutions, algorithms, expectations, and boundary-pushing storytelling.
Oobah is the creative mind behind The Great Amazon Heist, an impressive documentary that tells the tale of how he infiltrated Amazon and managed to turn fake products into top-ranked merchandise.
He also gained global attention for The Shed at Dulwich, a remarkable experiment where he turned a non-existent restaurant into London's top-rated eatery on TripAdvisor.
Without serving a single meal.
Oobah's work is a fascinating mix of satire and investigative journalism.
And he can also do a pretty good rendition of Ziggy Plays Guitar if you happen to be with him in a bar and a piano.
I've never met you before, Oobah, so
Okay.
fantastic that you're here with us.
Thank you, yeah.
On a UX podcast.
I'm happy to be here.
What I have been doing is some research, and it has come to my attention that sometimes you send other people to do your interviews and even attend your high school reunions.
I love that idea.
Allegedly, no. Yeah, I mean, I have been known to do that, yeah. I've got my own little app called Oobah, where people can order lookalikes of themselves. It's not really. It's basically a form on a web page, but the concept is an app.
Oh, I love the fact that you can make your name sound more like a certain transport-based company.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, if you look at the logo, it might look a little similar as well. But yeah, I mean, this is the real me, the real deal. I can assure you.
Wait, Pat did actually joke about forcing you to take out ID.
I did. It's actually back in the hotel room, which is over there above the ABBA Museum.
Yeah.
So you know,
I'll tell you what though, we'll check your ID later.
Okay.
We won't stalk you or anything or follow you back, but we'll sort out the ID later. But when reading a bit about you and like watching some of your stuff about it, you get described as a con artist sometimes. And you know, from my perspective, I mean, okay, you're a media personality, I guess, as well, but maybe are you an activist? How do you see yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think through different phases of my career, I've been called different things. So when I first started out, I was a writer, and it started out mainly with Vice and things like that. And at that point, people would have called me a journalist or a writer. Then I started to do more to go from doing my weird stuff in written form to then doing it in video form, and that, like these kind of online documentaries. Then I started getting called, you know, a prankster or whatever. And, but yeah, I mean, I guess it's the space I play within because my stuff always sort of is colliding with the real world. In terms of like, you know, I'm going to play in this space, you know, I'm going to play. I think it does. People find it slightly tricky to pin that down. I don't know, really. It's hard to classify myself because I just sort of I know what I do and I know what my lane is. So I guess I'd probably need to think more about it. Maybe it's like social engineering. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's the way that it comes together. I mean, I definitely have a worldview. And I think that helps to make the stuff feel contemporary. You know, I think if I was doing what I was doing 20 years ago, I think it would be easier to make films where it's all, like Sacha Baron Cohen's obviously a genius, but like his stuff is, I guess, it's. I don't know. It's just like you want that stuff has to kind of move on as things change or whatever. And I'm sure he's making something new right now. I'm sure it'll be updated and he'll develop it or whatever. I don't know why I'm talking about this. What I'm trying to say is I don't think I'm an activist, no, because I think that there is like a real proper space for that. But I definitely have a worldview, and I think that, if in my opinion, like that's what helps make the stuff feel contemporary and relevant. Is they've got a worldview without jamming it down people's throats, because ultimately it has to be entertaining as well.
Yeah. So you're still foremost entertainer, but if we think about the Amazon heist, I mean there is social. I mean that is social commentary. There is the activist aspect to that.
Right.
Whether you've come from that as the burning issue or not. I mean,
was that intent? Was the intent to be a commentary on?
It was quite natural, to be honest, because it was just like, it was during the pandemic and just seeing how much of a growing presence in our lives Amazon was occupying. And just stuff like a lot of shops on the high street shut in, seeing a lot of people obviously not being able to leave the home, or being, I mean, I know it was very different in Sweden, you guys did a different thing, but like everyone was at home a lot more, everyone was using Amazon a lot, the company grew at this absurd rate in a really short amount of time, and I guess it just made me, I was using Amazon as well, I wasn't above it, I just found it interesting how much of a growing presence this like huge company had become, and obviously everyone kind of had a whiff that they didn't quite do things great, so then I started making a short about Amazon, like a short film that I was just made myself with a friend of mine called Stan, and then that ended up being this piece that's in the film about tax avoidance, and it was really fun. It's how do you get people to care about this issue that's can feel quite boring. It's like, and how do it does impact us, but how and why do I care? And that was kind of the question. And then kind of in the film we focused on potholes. The whole idea that infrastructure and like how quick can Amazon make a Prime delivery without the roads that are paid for with our taxes, and it was like, but yet they pay such a tax to turnover rate that's so low, absurdly low. I pay more corporation tax than Amazon. I did last year anyway. So I don't know. It was funny to me to as a new challenge. It definitely felt like a step further in that direction of that. This is there was a focus to the film. Like Amazon are the focus of the film. They're the reason it exists. But it's not me saying delete your Amazon account. It's just saying why don't we have a little look at this
Right.
this
it's
gigantic
an observation rather than a call to arms.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously then it spiraled into this big documentary that it was really a dream for me to be able to do something with Channel 4. And it's now come out in Denmark recently. It was on TV2, but it's not out here yet. And it's been out in a few other places like New Zealand, Australia, and hopefully more places soon. But yeah, I mean, that was like a dream of mine, is to do my weird stuff that I started doing when I was living in a shed 7 years ago, and now being able to do a documentary on Channel 4 was a bit of a dream. So yeah, very lucky. It's very easy to just quickly like forget that would have been like a dream a year ago, and or maybe like 18 months ago, and now you're like, always, life is just about your expectations change every time you achieve something, doesn't it? And then it's like, now I need da-da-da, and you're like, stop being such a moron, take a second. And but it's I'm just hearing myself talk about it now. I'm thinking, that was I'm proud of that.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the shed in Dulwich when that came out, and of course because it just got splashed so far and wide on the news and media. When it came up, great. And but I remember at the time just reflecting on the whole algorithmic side of stuff, and this is something you cover in the Amazon Heist one as well. That gaming the algorithms, and just how easy it is. Well, I mean, I'm saying it's easy.
Yeah,
I mean, it just seems
it can be.
It can be, and it seems easy, and you've done it multiple times now. But how do you look on the kind of this? I suppose the social commentary side of that. That you're faking something to get there.
Yeah.
But is it real? I mean, what I'm trying to get to there is like, are you just mirroring what goes on anywhere?
Yeah, I mean that I in all my stuff I tried to sort of I always start at like a monkey see monkey do kind of space. It's like, is this thing that we kind of specifically with algorithms like ranking systems like TripAdvisor or in the Great Amazon Heist, the Amazon sales list, the drink sales list. I guess that we kind of the way that I think that we view those things is sort of we curate our experiences of the world based upon these rankings. I would say, like not everybody, but I personally am more drawn to sort of tastemakers. Like I'll find someone whose taste that I really, really admire, and then I'll try and follow their recommendations. And that I'm less than
like the influencer kind of.
Yeah, I guess Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I would just like say, for example, I'll find a food critic who I think is great. Like this guy called Jonathan Nunn in London who does a Substack called Vittles. It's brilliant, and it has a worldview as well. Weirdly, I think food should have a worldview sometimes. But anyway, so that's just one example. I'll subscribe to his Substack, that's where other than word of mouth, that's where I'll find what restaurants I want to go to. That's me personally. I'm not much. I think I'm more naturally drawn to that than consensus, I would say. But I think a lot of people will just search best restaurant Stockholm. I just got here, so and TripAdvisor's still there in the top 1 or 2 on Google. So it would then that would be I would then go to that restaurant based upon that ranking. And then obviously just my experience was just that finding out that these ranking systems were so manipulatable, and that there were businesses and companies. I mean, Amazon's a gigantic industry of people who game that system because it's so valuable. Yeah, it's a
platform. I mean, they're gaming it constantly.
Gigantic. Same as TripAdvisor was, but Amazon on another level, I would say now. But yeah, I mean, so what? I don't know. I feel like there's so much cynicism just creeping beneath the surface there. And with me, what I do is I try and explore that it's sort of like, how do I do this in the most grotesque way possible sometimes, or the funniest way possible, to make a point about, not just make a point, but it's also, one, I want to see if I can do it, because it's always starts, is this possible? I think it might be. Can I get a number 1 drink on Amazon made out of their driver's urine? That doesn't sound like it should be doable. And yet, in the film,
yeah, you'd hope the laws would stop you.
Yeah, exactly. And then we listed, the ingredients, and it said, this is collected bottles of Amazon driver's urine in the description on the platform, and it didn't pick it up. So it's yeah. I mean, I am drawn to these ranking systems. I do think that they curate our experience of the world and how we go into experiences, and I definitely have. I would say I probably am victim to it as well, to be honest. I think we all are. But I don't know. I enjoy just taking a second from time to time and exploring, how much do I trust this platform and should I?
But do you think people get it? Because I felt kind of frustrated when I was reading interviews with you, when the journalists or the media outlets, they find it, this is hilarious, what you're doing. It's so funny, you're gaming the algorithms. But they don't problematize it around the fact that, well, everybody is gaming the algorithms. Yeah. And as you said, of course, you're susceptible to it yourself, because that's the way it works. And I'm traveling this summer, and I realized I was checking hotels, and I thought, I'll just check the reviews. Yeah. And then I caught myself, why in the world would I trust these reviews? Right. They're there, so I read them.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah. It's so hard it's impossible to ignore. I mean, I do think that it's a good point. It is that there's so much. Why wouldn't you, if you were running a company, try and you're trying to make something work?
It's the quickest route to the goal, isn't it?
It genuinely is. Yeah,
there's no other quicker way of doing it.
I mean, when I when I remember when I did the shed, I remember I got approached by genuine restaurant companies who wanted me to help them launch businesses in that way.
Yeah.
So basically create the idea of a restaurant, and then basically manipulate its position and then open it.
Yeah.
And I was like, isn't that unbelievable?
I've had offers of. I mean, I used to have a Facebook page when Facebook pages were actually kind of useful. Before their algorithm killed them off.
Yeah, they did.
And,
that was
I had
bad.
offers from people wanting to buy that Facebook page because exactly that you kind of like it's a bait and switch. You take that thing, you rename it, and you alter it, and then use it for something else.
Exactly. I mean, and that it was just like to open a physical space, a restaurant space. I mean, as a business model, I don't know if that would have worked. Would it? I don't, because running a restaurant's actually really difficult, isn't it? I used to work. Yeah. I actually used to work in my sister's restaurant in York. I don't know, you said you spent time there. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that was hard. Whereas trying to figure out ways to manipulate algorithms is sometimes difficult, but mainly just fun. I think, because it's less. You're not investing loads of money. But yeah, I would say that there's a lot of things in the world that feel like a meritocracy and are treated that way, whereas I'm not really sure that that's the way maybe we should look at them.
And we funnel. I mean, the whole thing with this as well just funnels us into such small.
Yeah.
The result is so small. I mean, now we've this. I don't know if you've seen this last week or so. There's been the whole thing where Lawson Mount Fuji, where there's there's a point where you can take a picture of Mount Fuji in Japan in front of this convenience store, and they've now erected a barrier on the side of the pavement.
No way.
To stop tourists from taking the picture of Mount Fuji in the background because it was causing accidents, people going to the street and all the rest of it. But basically, if you search for things to do, if you search for this, it says you should do this. Go and take a photo of Mount Fuji
in front of this shop.
They can't stop them from turning up. So now they've actually put this. It's like a mesh barrier now. They put up a fabric barrier to stop you seeing it.
So crazy.
But of course, then they all came to look at them while they were putting the barrier up.
Yeah.
Because that became a thing in itself.
That's interesting. So bringing it back to design, I mean, how do you feel about accountability and responsibility when it comes to these things? Mm-hmm. But obviously, people are building these review systems.
Yeah.
So how do we make people aware of how much trustworthy or how trustworthy they are, or they should be? So it's not only about the companies gaming the system; it's also about the people building and relying on the scoring systems.
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky, isn't it? I mean, I do quite like the design or the kind of idea behind Rotten Tomatoes, the film website, where you have two scores and you have the public score, the audience review score, then you have the critics review score. I do think I quite like that because then you have a kind of, I don't know, I think there's something there where it's like the audience score will be manipulatable and it definitely will be.
I'd say it's very Eurovision.
Yeah, it really is. You're right. Yeah.
That's exactly why I think they've maintained the jury aspect. Yeah, because you can't trust the public.
I mean, I genuinely, I think that like there is something in having that balance between, in my opinion, having that. I don't think we should throw the baby out of the bathwater and get rid of your ability to review something online. But I think that. I do think they're having a combination of different types of things that people can look at. Critics, because there are experts and there are people that have great taste. There's a reason why a good DJ is a good DJ and a bad DJ is a bad DJ because they've got good taste, good ear, they understand the situation. But your question, so specifically about the designs of these things and how we should help people to, I mean, it's really hard though, isn't it? Because I think that. Like how many people do you think realize that the order of they're served algorithmically on social media and it is as you talked a second ago about Facebook, when it became advertising became the main goal of that platform, it was impossible to build to continue. A lot of people I was working with Vice at the time and a lot of different small media companies. Just the arse fell out of them overnight. There was all of a sudden you things that were getting 15 million views on there were getting 500,000 views, and it was what I'm basically trying to say is do people understand that, have the basic understanding that so much of what they're seeing is paid for? Do they understand that? That feels like something that people should be educated in.
You're right.
Yeah.
I do think with, I don't know why, I might be wrong, but my instinct is that TikTok, and I know that's controversial because America, whatever's going on with that in Congress at the moment, but I do feel like that's the most giving algorithm at the moment. I would say because they have such a lower percentage of ad income. I've been able to build a big audience on that in a short-ish amount of time now. It was initially short, now it's not short, but I was able to build a big audience on that, and it feels almost like a little bit more. It's probably, I'm not saying it's a great algorithm. I'm not saying that it's the way everything should be built, but it does feel a little bit. And now obviously it's going 10-minute videos. You can put more and more up, and it's becoming a bit of a different platform. But I do think that it is nice where you've got that feels a little bit more like the algorithm is based upon people's reaction to random content and themed content that they're served, rather than just who's paying the most, which is quite a depressing view of the internet and where we're headed in a way, or where we are really, I guess, now at this point. It's even like SEO, Google rankings, you can pay for that, so it's like, I mean, that's changed now, hasn't it? As well, with the AI assistant, the Google AI. Like, I mean, that's a whole other issue. That's literally changed over the last week, hasn't it? So,
so are you hopeful?
I don't know, really. I have to be on some level because I don't think I would have a career without the internet. So, like, I don't think I would. So, I'm hopeful in some senses, selfishly, that there's a lot of bullshit going on, and I can continue to poke holes in it. I don't feel too hopeful about in terms of voices and diverse voices in terms of media, and I don't think I would have been able to build a career. Well, I definitely wouldn't be able, because Vice they don't publish anymore. They don't have any. I think they have 1 or 2 members of editorial staff left. That's just one platform that I used to work with. I feel not that hopeful of having. I feel like it's going to be harder for more interesting voices within this space to pop up. I think they will, but I don't think it's going to look the same. The skill set of what is required to pop up is more like, how can you short form video that's going to pop in 15 seconds, 30 seconds, rather than the way that I cut my teeth was writing a combination of clickbait, music, news stories, and then more long-form journalism and music reviews and things like that. It was a weird path, but it was kind of, I didn't go to university, so it was kind of like university. That's just, I guess, speaking to me and what I do. I feel not that hopeful about the ability for media companies to exist because of Google's now becoming. I mean, I think someone estimated in the Wall Street Journal, I think it was this week, that I think websites are going to lose about 40% of their traffic. And it's like further now, just because obviously people now will stay on the Google platform because of the scrub data, and they use that to just basically keeping people in the Google Playpen.
So you're obviously engaged in all this. You're very well read and understand what's going on.
I don't know. I try to keep my head on in the space, but yeah. You have to because then you've got to, with all this material, you have to then think, well, what point am I going to make, and how do I do it in a way that will cut through? So yeah.
Well, I think that point there about kind of what Google's doing, and Google moves stuff kind of into their world, or how they phrase it is, it's a UX thing, it's a user experience thing that you want the answer to your search as soon as possible, and providing it in the same page as soon as possible, which makes me think of the end of the Amazon Heist documentary, where you have the little clip where they're talking about, well, we do this, we start the customer and work backwards, and we do this for the customer.
Yeah.
So you end up with who's to blame.
That is true. Yeah, I mean that's a good point. Like, I mean, the Amazon thing, we do talk about the fact that the scapegoat for all the justifications of the treatment of workers, the tax stuff, the safety around the platform is all, well, we don't, we're the most customer obsessed company on earth, so this is all you. It's kind of shifting the blame and putting it onto you. It's a really good point. So yeah, I mean, Do you think that the UX of Google is better with the AI responder? Do you think it is? How do you?
I personally don't, but
I don't like it.
There are so many people actually now. There are posts and recommendations and guides being written on how do you turn it off. So people are trying to do that as much as possible now, because a lot of people really don't like it.
Yeah, I like the idea of like fact-checked experts who've actually written the thing rather than their data that's been scrubbed without any regard for copyright and and fed back to you by basically a
mysterious box.
Yeah, mysterious box. There you go. I don't know. I found it odd. What you were going to say? Sorry, I cut you off. Then
No, I was just saying about thinking again about the AI thing now in Google is just another extension of what they've been doing for years of just shifting stuff from you having to go somewhere else to find the answer to keeping you back in. So the extension of that they're just trying to, the AI is the new frontier of how far can we pull this back into our world.
Yeah. I mean, I found it interesting. It makes that like the dispute between the Hollywood, screenwriters, them, all of that, SAG-AFTRA and all that went on for for about a year nearly, 8 months or whatever. Makes all that feel a bit ahead of its time, really, wasn't it? Because that was all based around the use of people's images they wanted to have it in contracts so that if someone appeared in a film, then they have rights to use their image. And now you were thinking, and at the time, it felt a little spacey. And I was like, really? Is that really a hill to die on? No, it definitely was a hill to die on because that data now is being scrubbed and used. So it's been, sort of feels like things are happening at such a pace that I don't know. I feel like you say back to about feeling hopeful. It's like we're on the cusp of something big. It feels like a big moment, and I don't know if it's a good one, but it feels like a big one. I don't know. It feels like scapegoating the customer, scapegoating the user, whatever, is the only way home for them, though, because the only way home is that they somehow make it such a crucial part of our day to day that by the time that these lawsuits stack up about intellectual property and copyright. I've got a friend of mine who works as a library composer for television. He's just lost one of his jobs because they're scared about, the automated music things where they can just type in, a theme and it's good fun. I, put songs, write a song about, I can't say that, but it's but you can imagine. But then obviously having the reality of his companies that employ him saying, we're going to have to stop working. We need to cut, a third of our staff because we don't know what the hell's going to happen. It's all happening way quicker than I thought it would.
And just the other day, we had the news about Scarlett Johansson's voice being used by OpenAI.
Yeah.
Oh, well, used. I mean,
allegedly,
yeah. But yeah,
a voice that sounded extremely similar to hers.
Sure,
and they took it down.
They did, and they did try and get her again to agree to it
before
they launched it.
I saw that. That was the smoking gun when she was like, they did contact me 2 days before, and I still said no.
And I didn't ask them to take it down. She didn't either. She actually asked them, "How did you make this voice?" "Oh, we're going to take it down."
Yeah, so crazy.
Yeah. But are you worried? Are you worried at all about?
About my work?
Yeah, because obviously you're already using lookalikes, but now lookalikes can just pop up anywhere.
Yeah, definitely. I just feel like if you'd have asked me like a year ago, then I'd have probably said no. But I'd say that it feels like there's no lines really. Like it felt like like composers, for example. Music's had such it's had 120 years or whatever of this really specific copyright law that protects it. So that felt pretty like my friend was like recession proof. Like when he would still work because he still need music and whatever. And now no. So I don't think anybody's safe from it really. I don't want to scaremonger too much. I've got obviously, I think I do kind of feel like people will always want entertainment that cuts through, but I don't know whether that means that. For example, Channel 4, who I put out this film with, they had to cut 16% of their staff in January, and that's like a public service broadcaster, technically, like the BBC or whatever, and paid for slightly differently. But that's an example of everything's kind of. I don't know what am I trying to say? that's not a good sign for me. Do you know what I mean? Whether I don't know how much we're linking the AI thing to that, maybe a little tenuous at the moment, but it's definitely all the stuff we were talking about with algorithms and advertising, and that's all 100% what money in television is about, you know.
But from the creative point of view, I mean, it feels like we're going through a phase at the moment where we're trying to be creative with AIs, but AIs are just based on stuff that already exists.
Yeah,
They don't produce
regenerative.
Yeah, they're just mixing the stuff up in the bowl. Yeah. They're not actually adding anything new to the bowl.
Yeah, I mean, I heard something about they want to get or they have got the ability, or they want to get the ability to scrub YouTube now. I don't know. That'll be they're basically out of data, basically, or something. I don't know. I was half asleep listening to something, but maybe it was an AI. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it's mad to think that we're all in there. You know, we're all of us are in this thing without any consent or. I don't know. I guess completely honestly, I think I'm all right for now. I just don't know what's coming next. And I mean, the way I've always done my ideas is, you know, starting from a point of, is this trying to find things that don't feel possible and things that feel absurd and my dad says that what I do is like, it's like, you know, you have a conversation in a pub and someone says something, they're going to do something and you're like, yeah, all right then. And then I actually then go and do it. That's sort of what he says is what I do. So I hope that the goalpost will just shift. I do think there is something someone's got to make something really smart about, you know, about this, what's going on. It's just, I was trying to come up with something the other day, but it's just there's so much to go on, you know, and it's moving so quickly. Yeah.
So the production time for actually gone from idea to actually having something out there. Yeah. You haven't got much to work on.
Yeah, definitely. And it's so funny, isn't it, that Sam Altman went with the Scarlett Johansson voice to. There's something so. Her's an amazing film, the Spike Jonze film, but like there's something so weird about someone. He's like basing this whole thing on a piece of work as well, and it's like. Yeah, it's weird.
The circular.
Yeah, exactly.
And even then, I mean, Her is put out as a warning.
Yeah, exactly.
And so they're copying all these warnings from books, from films. And what you're doing is also you're putting out warnings, really.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. Yeah,
and you'd hope that people would get it at some point.
It's very much Black Mirror-esque in that sense. That we again see Black Mirror coming true.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
frightening as hell.
Yeah.
But no, it's the same kind of thing, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, when I did that, I did one of my lookalike films where this guy sent a lookalike to skydive with his wife,
right?
And she didn't. I made it all happen. She didn't realise, and it was too dark. The end was too because I said because. I just said we just don't tell her, and then that's that, and that's like Black Mirror, you know. They went out, and she's like, "Wow," because he had like vertigo and all this stuff, and he couldn't do it. And then we switched them out as they were getting on the plane without distracted her, and it was such a mad film. But you can watch it on YouTube if you're interested. But I remember the end of it. Now I look back as a better filmmaker. I look back and go, well, it probably would have been better if we'd have kind of made him have to actually face what he had done and tell her or something, you know, have to learn something. But that's the most Black Mirror thing I think I'd made. Where they're hugging and she said, "I'm so proud of you," and it was just like, what have we done? This is really bad. This is really bad. This isn't good. But I'm glad I did it because it was a lesson learned as a filmmaker of that's just a bit too edgy. I don't think it would have been a better film if he had had to have dealt with his cowardice in some way,
right? Yeah.
You know, but it's funny.
That's a good message about accountability to end on.
Yeah,
thank you so much, Oobah. This was loads of fun.
Cheers, thank you.
So much of that chat with Oobah is fascinating, and I think something which me and you, we tried multiple times during that interview to pin him down as an activist.
Exactly.
and Oobah keeps pushing back and not taking up that tag, and he preferred, as you heard, the I have a worldview. And you know, you wonder, what does that really mean? And
he kept saying it makes it feel contemporary because I have a worldview.
Yeah, as a worldview. I mean, yeah. So thinking about what that means with worldview, and yeah, sure, he has opinions, and but he doesn't want to adopt a certain tag. He's happy with his own tag. He's an entertainer, and that's the tag he's happy with. But when I think about our us as designers or the people we are, our reaction to his entertainment, in particular the Great Amazon Heist, we see him as an activist through that content. And then if I think about the reaction he received from the audience from Business to Buttons when we saw him speak live, the reaction he got, the like standing ovation and applause, it was the reaction of an audience that saw him as an activist.
Yeah.
So whether Oobah likes it or not, there is an audience out there of designers, UX designers, that looks upon his content in a different light, maybe, than pure
and
entertainment.
are thankful for it because that helps them explain things to people. But also, the word activist is value loaded, so I can also understand that if he gets labeled as an activist too much, then people will actually avoid his content. So you'd want to stay away from that as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we see this with Greta Thunberg. I mean, she is an activist, and then there becomes over time the anti-activist group, the people who disagree or don't have the same. Well, the worldview isn't aligned, and with I suppose with entertainment, then you don't have to necessarily have 100% aligned worldview to appreciate something as entertainment. But if it's then, I suppose, more political, it's kind of more pushing a point, then you maybe have to be aligned with the point to appreciate it.
And it's interesting how we're adding our perspective to what he is constantly, but really he's just a guy doing fun stuff. Yeah,
and it is really fun. I mean, if you haven't, you should watch some of the Vice videos that he did as well. In particular, he mentions the skydiving one. That's actually really funny. It is really funny. It's really good entertainment. Well, we can't get away from the fact, though, that and we mentioned Black Mirror again, the fact that he is exposing something. Are we showing us the truth? He's gaming the algorithms that other people are gaming in a similar way, but we're lapping it up as consumers.
Exactly. And we're laughing at it, and we're thinking, oh, ha, 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 now I understand. Or I knew that, and now I... But the thing is, we still keep getting fooled. And as I expressed in the episode as well, that I'm frustrated with journalists not really understanding what is his commentary about. And sometimes I feel like, does it matter?
Yeah, I mean...
because it's still funny.
Yeah, because, I mean, a lot of the if you read some of the articles about this and reviews, there's a fair bit of focus on the actual product, the fake product. The bottles of Amazon driver urine. Exactly. And that isn't the point. The point of that was, of course, it's an extreme product, and why would anyone even be allowed to sell it, kind of thing. The underlying point is lack of transparency of these algorithms.
Right, and the safety mechanisms, whatever they are not picking up on these things, which perhaps we should expect them to.
Yeah, and that begs the question, what should we as designers in organizations that have algorithms do?
Right, and are we even aware of how many different algorithms there may be at play inside our organizations that are affecting ourselves, but also, of course, our customers and our users?
Because, we're doing this for the customer, as keeps getting mentioned. I mean, we in our organizations, I think, should at least do that self-check. Do I know what algorithms are at play? Do I understand how they work? I mean, I think you're possibly going to struggle to understand them fully. If I reflect on my own experiences, there are times where maybe the bandwidth isn't there for you to do the research or dig to find the answers to some of these things from where you are in an organization. But surely it's important to understand how the black box works for you.
Right, and sometimes you will be working with an interface that actually has an algorithm integrated somewhere. And would you want to be complicit in that by not understanding it and not addressing it? Or do you actually want the people you are exposing or exploiting to understand more?
Yeah. I mean, I think this is a really, now we've got all serious power, but I think this is why we get so kind of activist or excited about the content. Is the entertainment Oobah's produced is it does raise something we're all aware of and haven't managed to really do something about.
Exactly. And I think that part of that is actually because Oobah is doing such a good job of it. He's very well read. He understands the problem in detail in a way that most people who work with these things actually don't.
Yeah, exactly, because he's putting it into practice. He's doing usability tests. He's doing actual research for us. And they say, again, we do this for the customer. I think, do this? Do what? I mean, if we're saying we do this for the customer, we've got to understand what this is.
Remember to keep moving.
See you on the other side.
James, why was the snowman looking through carrots?
I don't know, Per. Why was the snowman looking through carrots?
He was picking his nose.